Let's look at strings in Scratch. So a string is a collection of characters. And for playing with collections of characters, we have join. We have letter of. We have length of. And we have string contains a character. Now, additionally, we can compare characters with equals. And often strings are going to be in variables. So let's rename this variable as a string. And we can do a set with a string. Now, a string could be a numeral or a number, but often it's going to be letters. So when we set a string, often what we're going to do is just delete that zero there and set a string to nothing if we want to start off with an empty string. Now, we're not going to do change because change is a numerical operation. It adds one. And Scratch, if you try to do a numerical operation with Scratch, Scratch says, oh, that's not a number, so let's just call it 0. So what Scratch would do, even if my string was called Scratch, and then I tried to add 1 to it, what's going to happen is it's going to say, well, that's not a number, so we'll call it 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. So point here is that we're not going to do that. It's not helpful. With the join on strings and the idea of a string as a variable, so let's say we set variable to Scratch, we could then change string with join by doing another set. And what we would do is we would join the string with itself. So we would take whatever string is and then join it with, and we can join it with whatever we like. So suppose we're going to join it with a greater than symbol. So right now, if I were going to do something like say, and I want to say what is my current string, and I click on it, it's going to say, let's reset it. It's going to say Scratch. Now notice I said 1 a moment ago, which illustrates my point. When I added 1 to it, it said, wait a minute, add 1 to a string? String's not a number, so we're just going to take 0 plus 1 is 1. So I just reset it, and now I'm going to say, it's going to say Scratch. And if I then select this block, it's going to then append whatever string was with the greater than and say, okay, so that's now what string is. So now I can do say, it's going to put that there. Now you can do that the other way. So let's just duplicate this and separate it. And we could put string over there. And on the other side, we could do maybe a less than. So now it thinks string is string with a greater than. And if I activate the set string with join less than string, you should see there's a less than on the left. So you can join on either side of the string. Now, what you can't do with a string with these options for string manipulation is remove something or move things around. To do that, you need a whole new string. So if I wanted to alter within the string, then I'm going to have to make a new string. And if I want to keep some of the letters and add letters, or if I want to remove a letter, either way, just get this other stuff out of the way. Then what I have to do is I'm going to have to loop through the string. Now we need some notes to figure out how to do that. So right now I have a string as a variable. And it is currently set to this collection of characters. If I put the letters in the right order. There we go. So that's currently what a string is set to. Now, what I'd like to do is modify a little bit on the inside. So for example, what I would like to take is the vowel A, and I want to replace that with an underscore. Now, to do that, I need to find that value. To find that value, I have to realize that Scratch recognizes that there's a first character and a second character and a third character and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth and a seventh and an eighth and a ninth, and however many your string has. Every string is different. Now, I want to find the A in that position. Again, I have a position of each character in the string. So I need a new variable called position. That is going to help me loop through this. So I'm going to do something like set position to 1 to get us started. And then I'm going to have to set up a repeat. And I want to repeat as long as the string is. So we're going to repeat for the length, which we can find, of the string. And in the repeat, what I want to do is I want to say, hey, when do you see an A? So we'll have to find an A, we'll have to do an if. And in the if, we'll do a comparison with equals. And what we want to know is A equal to the letter in that position of my string. And if they match, then what I can do is I can put in an underscore. Now, I can't put it in this string. I need a new one to do that with. So I mentioned that earlier that I'm going to need a new string. So I have variable position. I'm going to have another variable. Just call it new string. And it's a new string that I'm going to put that in. So if that letter is there, then I'm going to then set string to whatever string is, and then we're going to put in that underscore. Now, if it's not an A, so else, switch colors on that, else, what we want to do is we just want to set the string to whatever it was plus the current letter. Now, how do we find that current letter? Well, we're going to be working with the position. So in this if then else, after the if then else, in the repeat, we're going to have to keep updating that position. So the first time through, the position is 1, and we look, hey, is that an A? If it's not an A, then we just record it in the new string. And if it is an A, then we're just going to replace it with an underscore. And either way, we're going to do one of two things, right? We're going to write down, hey, this is the current character in this else, or we're going to replace the A with an underscore, and then we're going to change the position to 2, and it's going to look at the next thing. Is that an A or not? It's going to decide to replace it with an underscore or just record it. And we're just going to repeat that over and over again. And again, given the tools we have in Scratch, we can't change besides adding before or after a string with join. We have to make a new variable and put our new parts of the string in that. So let's give this a try. All right, so let's see. basics, boilerplate stuff. We're going to have a when it starts. We're going to, let's say, ask for a string, and then we'll deal with that answer. And we have some variables to add and initiate. So far we have a string and new string. We need position of a character in the string. So we're going to set the position to 1. We're going to set a string to whatever the answer is. And in this case, since we only have one answer, we could just use answer instead of a string. I'm just going to go with that though. And then it's a good idea to initialize each variable. So we're going to take the new string, and since it's not a number, we're going to just delete the 0 and initialize it to nothing. And we need a loop to set up. So we're going to do a repeat, and we want to repeat however long the string is, and we have an operator to help us figure that out. We have the length of. So we're going to repeat for the length of whatever our string is. All right, let's look back on our notes. So inside of our repeat, we want to do an if then else and a change position. And in this case, we're just looking for the letter A, but we could look for other things. So I'm going to use the if then else block here. And I also want the change in there. So regardless of what happens, whether I find an A or not, I want to increase position by 1. So then I keep looking at the next letter of my string. All right. Now the if, that is a match, and I want to know if I'm matching an A. And the equals, again, it doesn't matter what side you're on. You can put the A on the other side, but I'm going to put it there. So what I want to look at is the letter of the string I'm on. So which letter? Well, I'm looping through, starting at position 1. So I'm going to look at letter in position. At the moment, position is 1. And in there, I am looking at the string. And so it's going to grab the string. It's going to look at whatever position I'm at, and it's going to say, does that equal the letter A? Now, if it does, then what I want to do is I want to reset my current string with a join. Sorry, my new string. Let's just move these out. And what I want to do is say, well, whatever string is at the moment, new string, if it's an A, then I want an underscore. So I'm going to put the underscore character. Now notice I'm using a set, not a change. Change is addition. That's not what I want with a string. That's not numerical. So otherwise, I just want whatever the current letter is. I want to keep it. So to keep it, I'm going to use a join. And then whatever my current string is, I'm going to join the current letter. Now notice up above, I have letter in position of string. I'm just going to duplicate that. I want whatever that letter is. Now we could store that in a variable. And since I'm only using this block of code twice, I don't really think the variable is necessary. Some people would argue otherwise. So you could have another variable for the current character. You could store that character using letter in position of string, and then just grab the character each time. So there are programming options here. All right, let's see how we're doing. We've got the comparison with A. If it is an A, then we're going to put an underscore. And if it's not an A, then we're going to append the current letter. So I'm just rebuilding the existing string in a new string, replacing the A's. And this change allows me to keep going. All right, so when the script is over, I should just be able to say what the new string is. And see what happens. So it says, what is your name? My name happens to have an A in it. So I'm going to say Gary. And hopefully, if this works right, then I should get an underscore. And nothing happened. So I have an error somewhere. Let's find the error. And I'm putting in a set. It comes with the first variable in alphabetical order. It's important to remember to choose the right variable. So it's new string that I want to reset in this if here. So new string should be equal to the join between whatever it was and the current letter I'm on in my loop. Let's try that. Gary, and it replaces the A. Now we could continue this. Let's suppose we wanted to take a string and replace every vowel with an underscore. To do something like that, we would just need to make this if a little more interesting. And we would add some ors to that. So I'm just going to duplicate this block here. And here, again, the letter in position of, here's where I think I want to use a variable for that. So I'm going to reuse that too many times now. So I'm going to new variable. We're going to call it ch for character. And I'm going to start off. Let's turn these guys off. And again, those are nice to have sometimes when you're checking what you're doing. And sometimes they're good for users to see in certain applications. And we should then set it. Now, since it's a character, not a number, we're going to set it to nothing. So I'm just going to delete that 0 there. And then inside the loop, I want to set that character to letter in position. And then instead of always looking for letter in position of string in multiple parts in here, I can just look for character. So here I have the letter in position of, that can go. And instead, we're going to drop character in there. And then same thing right here. And now as far as the or goes, I can just nest a bunch of ors together with anything I'm looking for. So if I'm going to use multiple vowels, then I would just have more ors in here. So we'll just grab another or, and for however many you need. So right now I can deal with 1, 2, 3, 4 things. So I'm like or 5, and then we're just going to duplicate this here. A, E, I, O, and slide that over, and U. Now, Y is a little trickier, so I'm just going to ignore that for now. And you can look up on the internet how to decide when Y is a vowel and when it's not. It's not that complicated, but it's more than I want to do here. And then what I would do is in my if statement, I just put this big chunky or in there. And let's pick a different word like how about harness? And I broke it. Cool. So now we get to troubleshoot it. All right, so if character is an A or an E or an I or an O or a U, then we're going to set it to underscore. Otherwise, we're going to get the character. So that's the only change I made. Let's see. The ORs look like they're all right. All right, so when things misbehave, one thing to do is look inside the loop and see what's going on. And you can do that with the say block. So, or you can also turn on what each of these are. Interesting. So something got stuck. I'm going to put set character in. And that should be okay. Change position, new string. Let's run it one more time, see if anything changes. It's stuck on something. So let's go inside here. And what we'll do is we'll see what CH is. A good troubleshooting tip here. So I can do something like CH equals space. And then what is CH at that moment? And you can put them in other places too. I'm just going to put it there for now and see what happens. Okay. So I have, it's not even getting to that say. So somewhere there's a little error. I made the same mistake I made before. When I brought in the set, I forgot to change it to the variable I wanted to set. So here we have set ch to nothing. And now it should work all right. Okay, so I have, oh, it's checking each one. So one at a time is telling me what my characters are. That's working good. And there's the new word with the blanks out. So again, I didn't need this troubleshooting block, but again, so sometimes I'll put something like that in a different spot. So it could be, I might need a say inside this part, and another say inside this part. And then the say, you don't just want to say a variable. I'm going to give yourself a little more information. So usually the say is going to involve a join. So if I were in here, then I would do something like join, and I would want to know what's going on with new string inside here. So I would say something like, if then new string equals, and then I would throw that new string in there. And down below, it would be a little bit different. Let's duplicate that, stick it right here, and then get rid of these two. So this would be if else. Else. New string equals. So I know what part of the code I'm in and what variable I'm looking at. And that'll give me some additional information. So let's pull those out. So the say is helpful. In other programming languages, these would be comments that you would output to often a shell. Pull that out too. And let's run it with another word. Troubleshooting takes time. So how about orange? Nice. So it's looking for those vowels, A, E, I, O, and U, and replacing them with underscores. Then we could add this to a game, like, can you tell me what word this is, fill in the blanks, kind of like a partial hangman, where you give them some of the letters, but not all of them. What's the point of this? The point is manipulating strings. And when we're manipulating strings, again, we have a limited number of options to work with inside of Scratch. We have a join, we can identify a letter in a certain position in the string, we can find the length of a string, we can see if a string contains a letter. So for example, here, I could use contains. If I'm looking for a words, I would want to make sure it contains a letter in the alphabet. So I could have a list of letters in the alphabet that I compare it with. And if it's not in that list, then I would say, whoa, that's not a letter of the alphabet. What are you doing here? Because there's lots of other symbols in the keyboard. So that would be validating user input. So again, if we want to go a little further with this, we could do something like a contains, and we would want to do something like how the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. And we want to know if that contains whatever the letter I'm looking at. So we could do a check on each letter with an if then else. So perhaps in here, I could grab an if then else. And we'll do something like that. And then I want to check the character. There. Go. So if the character is in there, then I could run the rest of my code. And if it's not, then I would have a message saying, whoa, that's not a letter in the alphabet. So validating user input is also an important thing. Hope this was helpful in understanding strings in Scratch. Thanks.